future trends, deep insights, industry leaders. This is the iGaming Next podcast with your host, Pierre Lindh.
Welcome back to iGaming Next Online.
There's not just one goal, there's multiple goals.
Ignore dilution if the deal's good, because you'll make more from a bigger pot.
It wasn't that people preferred the office or preferred remote. They actually preferred the option.
In other words, COVID-19 is giving us a glimpse into the future.
It was our good friend Tim Heath that brought us together as well, I think, today in some sense. He actually messaged me before this.
Okay, did he?
Yeah, he messaged me. It's like
go easy on Ragnar.
Yeah, good luck with Ragnar, he said today. He did. Yeah, but how long is it you guys have known each other in general?
Pretty much almost 20 years.
Yeah, it's been like that.
Probably 2003, 2004. Yeah, 2003, I think.
Yeah, and it was from the poker tables in Estonia then? Yeah. Like, what's it called? Olympic Casino?
No, I think we played at that time more. There was, what was the name of that casino? Not Astoria Palace, but yeah, well, we can go with the Olympic as well, because there were two places. But there was a juicier game in a smaller casino, Monte Carlo Casino.
Oh, okay.
That was in the Russian theater, just in the like Freedom Square.
Oh, okay.
The better games at the time were there.
Well, I used to organize the Swedish Poker Championships in 2006 and 2007. And that used to be an Olympic Revel Park. Olympic Park.
That was a proper rundown hotel already by then.
Yeah. And they refurbished it for a while as well. And it was Prit Parama, I remember. He was the manager there, like the legendary manager or whatever of Olympic Park.
Yeah, and then he went on to manage Olympic Online, and I think he's now gone from gaming. I haven't kept up with him, but he's sort of gone from Olympic, and I don't think he's in gaming that much. But yeah, he was a super nice guy.
Yeah.
And all those things.
Good
working relationship with him at the time.
Yeah, many funny stories from back in the day with Brit and all the team at Olympic Park. They were like, they were always there. Like there were a couple of them. Valeri as well.
A bit of Asian looking, Mongolian or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, fun. But yeah, so anyway, Ragnar, I mean, interesting to have you here. I mean, you're one of those people who have been in the industry for probably, I mean, one of the longest stretches out of anyone in this industry. I mean, 20 plus years and
just about 20 years, yes.
Yeah.
So it's been quite the journey.
Yeah, and starting from Playtech back in the, I think you mentioned 2002. You joined Playtech.
Yeah. And it was just a very small team by then. I think it was about 30 people at best. So,
really?
Yes.
30 people at Playtech at that time.
Well, no, that was the Estonian development team. Obviously, there was the sort of the senior management team in Israel as well. But the sort of the development team when I started there was about give or take just under 30 people.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. So 2002. I mean, it'd be interesting to start off with today, just to kind of hear, the times at Playtech 2002, and you were there for a couple of years, like. Can you talk a little bit, like, you built iPoker back in the day, like how was that journey like?
It was like a bizarre coincidence, like most of those things are. So I was playing a little bit of poker. I had some prior project management experience, and Playtech was this brand new company in the recruitment market of Tartu when I was living at the time. Well, actually, I come from Tartu. Then did a bit of stint in Tallinn, and then was in Tartu again, and running into some people that were working in Playtech, and they said, we've been doing this casino. There are some random companies for my liking, but at the time I hadn't heard of, that were doing all sorts of things in Antigua, in Trinidad, And there is this great new product coming along called poker. and we're thinking of doing poker. So we've heard you've done some poker in your... we need to come and work for us. Okay. Was intriguing enough, so wasn't tied down with anything super important at the time. So decided to take a plunge and learn the wonderful world of online.
Yeah.
It was a very, very sort of straight into the deep end.
Yeah, of course, and like I said, we talked about this before, but I remember back in the day, in the poker days, with iPoker really taking over the poker market at some stage around there, and you obviously kind of built it or were one of the guys who pioneered that platform. Like.
Yeah, it was. So it was. There was some steep learning curves because obviously when I started, I was looking at competition. What was there? Actually started playing online for the first time in Paradise Poker at the time, and then there was the True Poker, which was trying to do the showing of the cards and like a first-person view of poker.
Ah, yes.
Yes. And there was like I tried to start play poker, and then at that time still the majority of the games, pretty much all the games, was limit poker. There was still like no such thing as no limit poker, and tournament poker has just started. And I think at Paradise Poker there was like 300 players. So trying to calculate the rake, how it all works, and sort of real like organically put together a team that was working on it. Soldiered on for a while, and then suddenly party poker burst the scene, and then poker went. Yeah. And all our server plans was out of the. It's changed. Yeah. It's now not 400 players. It's 10,000 players and growing every day. Yeah. So it was a bit of back to the drawing board, but eventually managed to get it live. Yeah, it was quite a stressful 2 years, I'd say. I can imagine. Yeah. But it's also the fact that. Most of the operators at the Playtech at the time were strong casino operators, and for them poker was quite a new thing. They were like used to the proceeds of casino, but they didn't have any experience in the world of poker, so they were a bit skeptical about the products. Yeah, but nevertheless.
But I mean, at some point I would say maybe like around 2007 or so, probably. There were, major operators that had the bulk of their profit came from poker at that time. Not like these days when poker is like 1% of the total revenue or something. But
I think I can't quote on the numbers, but maybe jumping ahead on your questions. But when I moved on to microgaming to the Isle of Man, and obviously Ladbrokes was absolutely huge. It was insane what they were.
Douglas Rose was Ladbrokes back in the day.
Yeah, and it was insane. Like proper 6-digit daily GGR numbers, and not starting with 1 or 2. Yeah. It was madness.
Yeah, and I used to work for BetSafe back in the day, in Betson Group, and I was there I think 2011 to 2013. And at that time was when poker was on the downturn, right? And I was in the poker team then as a VP manager. And I remember the poker team, they were reminiscing about when, the poker team got all the glory. Everyone was looking at what the poker team is doing and everything like that. And then at that time, it was only like 5% of the group's revenue or something.
All those bad affiliates of the time, the big rakebacks, mad 60-70% rakeback deals. How can you operate a business like this?
Yeah. It was madness. Like, and I remember we calculated like the top raking players were well above 100% rakeback at that time. Yeah, it's just unsustainable, right? And then the networks, like iPoker, that was the problem as well with the networks that they obviously the operators were working within certain constraints on what deals can you make and so on and so forth, so that they don't cannibalize from each other, right? But the problem was obviously that there were so many deals happening under the table so it was impossible to kind of sustain the networks as such.
But I think the other downside of this, and this is why I started playing less and less, was that with all the tools coming, like when people having profiles on everything, I think poker somewhere in the process stopped being fun as well. Because people were playing 20, 30 tables with all the help tools built in for them, and it went from being a fun little game to like almost people being bots. Also there were bots, but people themselves became bots for the rake back, going through all this and
exactly. And, nowadays it's I remember I'm sure that was the same for you. I mean, when we were playing in the 2000s, it was this feeling that poker is the game that you can't solve. It's like intuition, it's about being clever and other things. But now poker, no limit hold'em, is a solved game.
Yeah.
There is a computer who can play poker perfectly, which completely changes the dynamics, of course, in the future of online gaming. Because how would you detect that they are bots?
And also, I think in the time when we were playing, it was more of a fun crowd. Now it's like chess players, very, very serious people. The banter element in the table that used to be quite extensive. And
it's
well,
true.
those were the days.
Those were the days, Ragnar. But do you play from time to time still, or?
Probably. Well, obviously, COVID has changed everything. I play a couple of tournaments every year. I played the Estonian Championship. I think I got the second place in Omaha, and I played with my brother a team event and got the third place. But
nice.
I still enjoy a game of Omaha. But Texas Hold'em, I haven't had probably. Well, in an office setting with friends, yes, but proper like a cash game or a tournament, I haven't touched in years.
Omaha, and then you go to like 5-card Omaha or like with 2 flops, and when you start doing anything, it's hard to go back to Texas Hold'em, I think.
Even though it can get expensive.
It can get very expensive very, very quick. From nowhere. But so I mean, you had a stint at Playtech, obviously kind of like building iPoker, like legendary poker platform, and then from there you found yourself at Microgaming, then another huge poker network as well. Was the focus still poker when you went to Microgaming, or?
Yes, poker was a very fast-rising vertical. There was the Monte Carlo Millions that invested a lot of money into that brand, but also servicing some of the bigger brands in the industry, like the Ladbrokes, like Unibet, like NordicBet. So there was some really, really decent sized poker. For a time, even Bet365 was in Microgaming, and then they moved over to iPoker. But
yeah. So you move on from the poker department then in Microgaming over to sales.
Yes, I am. As poker was in the decline,
which year was this?
I wish I could tell you the exact year, but I think just early 2011, 12ish.
Okay.
So I went through the hard years as well. So and then I started talking to the people in the business that there might be other skills that I have. Like I'm a fluent Russian speaker. I think the sales team had used me in various pitches for potential new operators to do the product presentations and deemed me articulate enough for a role with a sales team. So at that time we were doing virtually no revenue in Eastern Europe, and there were like a couple of decent sized operations outside there. Like at some stage, Parimatch was doing great in poker, but they also got killed. And we looked at that. There are opportunities in Eastern Europe, but nobody has done anything about them. So pretty much, I was given a free rein between Czech Republic and Kazakhstan to try to find as much new deals as possible. And it was a very interesting time, pretty much every week on the road. And I picked up some great little, there was the one of my first finds was a Jarabet in Georgia.
Yeah.
And when I went to their office, and I made some great friends there as well, but nobody could believe when I said, I've been to the office in Georgia, I've looked in their back office. They are the largest poker operator in Georgia. Well, obviously betting was the main business, but arguably they are slightly bigger than Unibet in poker right now. And they were like, must be having a laugh.
Yeah.
And then obviously I had to get a few more people involved, and they were at the time they were using some really I wouldn't say shoddy, but not the greatest poker software. I think it was Dollaro Poker from Italy or something like that.
I haven't even heard of it.
Yeah. Or the same software that Dollaro Poker in Italy was using. And then built a relationship there and got the poker business over to Microgaming. It was a very, very harsh process, and also casino as well, because at the time they had only one or two small Eastern European suppliers and not much. So it was a very good deal that sort of opened up a lot for me in the sort of world of sales, because when you bring in something that good, people start listening and trusting you more. Otherwise,
yeah.
And then obviously looking at Russia at the time, there was quite a bit of decent sized operation that were looking at Russia. And then obviously the Eastern European market started opening up, so got a couple of good deals in Serbia, etc. So it was an interesting.
It was a journey. I mean, it's like you've been part of this industry from like the days of the Wild West, so to say, and
the Wild East. Well, not the Wild East, but yeah.
Yes, the Wild East. Let's call it much. That's an interesting way of putting it. And then obviously to what it is today, which is like the industry is maturing. There's like the Playtech being one of them, obviously. Gigantic listed organization with all that it brings, and so much talk about the future sustainability of the industry. I mean, there's so many things that happen in the industry that have made it kind of grown up, and we are standing on the shoulders of your work at Playtech and Microgaming, and so to say. But then obviously from Microgaming, and I guess this is a little bit why we are here today, is through our good friend Tim, you got in contact with him. You've known him for a long time, of course, and you decided then together to start OneTouch. And like, how did that happen?
Tim actually sort of had approached me like for about 2 years before, like. Listen, I'm running this great little shop. We are doing this amazing crypto business. Would you like to come and work with me? And I was like, I'm quite happy with microgaming. It's a very interesting project I'm involved in. I'm just probably not ready yet. And then next year he came back, asked the same question, and I still wasn't quite ready yet. But then obviously I think you get to a point even doing that where you sort of the leads start to dry up when you have tied up pretty much most of the bigger players in the Eastern European markets. So one day Tim comes and then says, well, are you ready now? And then one thing led to another, and then here we are now with OneTouch.
Yeah, exactly. And so what was the idea? Like, why? So OneTouch, obviously game studio focusing on mobile games, like that's the niche. Like how come?
I think some of the things that he was speaking really touched me in a way that Microgaming is a big organization, and let's put it this way: anybody that's worked in a big organization knows that everywhere, being Playtech, being Microgaming, there's quite a bit of red tape. And you get to the point where you can't realize some of your ideas. And then with Tim it was much more straightforward. We talked about what he wants to achieve, what my goals are, and OneTouch. And then basically from my dealings with my prior employers, I also had noticed there are a few gaps in the market that can be filled, that they were not looking to fill because obviously for them at the time, there were probably bigger fish to fry. But if you're a small company trying to make a name in the market, you can do a few things really fast and get to the market and get the traction. So doing mobile table games was the sort of the first really point of call, because everybody else were taking the mobile table games, taking their existing landscape, squishing it together. Here you go, here's a mobile game. So we pretty much were the first ones to do proper mobile table games. And also, it's didn't stop with this sort of backer, and we looked at some other markets as well. I know that, with my travels in Eastern Europe, Russian poker is a very major game in the Eastern European casinos, whether they were in Belarus, Georgia, or you name the country, Estonia even, the most played game probably. Revenue-wise, it's a bit less, but because it's a slow game, but it's a very heavily played game. Under Bahar for India, so we just looked at what are the unserviced niches in the market that we can quickly get traction, and then obviously getting involved in slots as well, trying to do a few things that we felt were missing in the market, being extremely crypto friendly, being focused on portrait first, like mobile portrait was most. Blackjack, you should be able to play with one hand only, and we had a mode for right-handed players and left-handed players, so you can conveniently play with one thumb only.
Yeah. So the games that you build, that's what you mean with mobile first. They are built for the purpose of
portrait,
mobile, and not the other way around, which is basically porting the PC friendly games over to mobile, but it's not necessarily
the right way. Yeah.
Interesting. And then obviously, now I know as well through talking to Tim a lot that you guys are also launching this in-person casino as well to kind of complement OneTouch, called Bombay Studios, right? Or and the live studio that you're able to play. Can you talk a little bit more about like Bombay Studios as well and how that fits in?
Yes. So obviously COVID played an important part in this, because with companies being shut down, with various countries implementing rules that stop them being able to have studios. We thought last summer that there is actually a niche in the market for a new live dealer provider, taking our learnings basically from what we've learned doing mobile table games and thinking that we are quite good at that, and obviously bringing a good live environment into this, and with Tim building a new land-based casino brand called Bombay Club, and this is sort of a very, very high-end members exclusive casino with a very, very nice hotel and a couple of nice restaurants attached to it. And then we thought that we can actually build a great high-end VIP orientated live dealer offering on top of it, with a conjunction of the entire concept and the values of Bombay, what they want to represent. So started working on the studio concept, starting working on the software concept, needed to bolster up the team quite a bit. I think we did the entire live dealer setup in 6 months, from scratch, from inception to taking the first, but even probably even less than 6 months.
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, the technical challenges is to build the teams must be like super big challenge to that.
Multiple challenges. One thing is just to have the right tech team in place, then the right product people in place. Then you need the studio design the concept, hiring the dealers that can cater for that type of the player that we are trying to. So also thinking of all the little things, like starting from fraud, the video quality, the streaming services to various parts of the world, how you can achieve that. It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's something that that Todd of Evolution always says, that it's really difficult to create that infrastructure that they have, for example, like the worldwide, and that's why it's so difficult to kind of compete with Evolution on a global scale. That it's not just like you just create a game and you launch it and whatever. It's like the infrastructure and tech and IT and so forth.
Yeah, I think right now Evolution probably it's too hard to compete with, but we feel very strong that all the others are a fair game for us.
yeah, absolutely. You know, and maybe it's not necessarily about like becoming the biggest. Like in your case, it seems that you are focusing on the VIP specifically, like that is your niche.
Yeah. So the basic concept there is we offer this really nice setting for the live dealer, and if you are a good player, you actually can get access to the live casino, and you basically can play the same dealers that you're playing in live. And then you can play in person, and then if you are of a certain size, then you can go back and request the same dealer for a private VIP session on the online again.
And has Bombay Club opened already, or
no? It's in building works right now.
Yeah. So it's when are you planning to open it, do you think?
I think the realistic plan is early next year. The full solution. It's still it's in the very nice medieval part of Tallinn, which means that there are some building regulations around it, what you can do in those medieval buildings. Right. But once it's ready, it's absolutely spectacular. Looking at the initial videos and the architecture, there's a lot of thought and effort going into this.
Yeah, that's super cool to hear. And if I know Tim right as well, there'll be a poker table there.
Possibly.
A good reason to come over to Tallinn, in other words, and gather some people and play some poker there.
It's the experience is going to be special.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I mean, it's a really innovative concept to have this like hybrid version of connecting Bombay Studios and the Bombay Club to have that like seamless experience where you can play live and then you can play in person as well, and making that as frictionless as possible. If I remember, I might be wrong here, I might quote you wrong here, but was it something as well that Tim mentioned about you can actually play cashless in the casino too?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's there is a QR code. You still have to do obviously all the due diligence side behind it, but basically it's a QR code. You scan, you get the chips, and then when you cash in, you can cash in straight in the table to your wallet. So
yeah, which is obviously, I mean, from a fraud perspective, safety protecting.
It's safety as well.
Not to have to handle like that amount of cash in the casino. I mean, that's going to be a good thing always, of course.
And it's 21st century. You don't have to walk around with a suitcase of cash and then put yourself in the harm's way.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of the in-person casinos there's a lot of like legacy in them still, that they like to do things a certain way. There was a funny story actually with Steve Wynn just not that long ago, where they had implemented some system in the tables where the cameras were supposed to pick up they had implemented a card system where you put the card and it scans you, and it's supposed to be able to register how much you play so that VIP players can get comped properly and stuff like that. And they moved basically from this manual system where they kind of just the dealer kept an eye on who were the VIP players, or they took notes and whatnot. They were having like loads of bugs with these cards and they weren't picking up. And Steve Wynn, he called a meeting with the supplier, and they basically said, like, listen, we've done this manually for 50 years. Like, can you tell me why the hell this card system is not working? And by the way, we're not gonna pay your invoices. And if you don't fix this within 3 months, we're gonna go back to the way we always done it manually, and we're never gonna go back. Because that's the mentality that they have. They don't trust the technology in a sense. But here comes you, from a technology, from the online environment, bringing in like how to
and trusting Tim that he's always a bit ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure when it opens, it'll be like a proper high-tech type of casino, let's say. So Ragnar, like, what's the future here now in general for OneTouch and Bombay and these things. Like how do you see things developing? You mentioned here it's not like you aren't aiming to become the next evolution, perhaps, but like what are your aspirations in general? Would you say?
It's actually when we even talked about this, it's actually the hardest thing to actually answer. We all have hopes and dreams. We have a bit of a vision what we want to be, but it's that road to that vision that is can have a few bumps, obviously. Like even when we talk about COVID, being in the market as a supplier, we've clearly seen that how various operators have slowed down the integrations. How do we push the product out? How do we distinguish ourselves? Because let's be frank, on average there's 10-15 slot games given to the market every single week. How do we stand out in that crowd with the new RNG games we do? How do we make sure that our relationship with Bombay, that we actually deliver the sort of the physical product in line with the vision of the visual product?
Yeah.
So all that, and it's going to be an interesting 1 or 2 years for us because
I mean you're breaking ground, so it's hard to say exactly where it will be heading, I guess.
We have a few ideas, but it's definitely I feel there is definitely room for a good live supplier in the market. Obviously, the evolution bought Net, and the market was made a bit thinner again, and there is room there. I believe that we have all the right pieces in place to provide both the excellent studio experience that the VIPs want to see in line with excellent mobile experience, nice, discreet, casual, but executed to perfection.
Yeah. And that's something I hear echoed a lot now from the operator side. It's like, now they are looking at where does the revenue come from, and obviously Evolution taking ownership of both Net and Big Time Gaming and so on and so forth.
And Red Tiger in the middle of that.
Red Tiger as well, and all of a sudden as an operator, you have 60-70% of your revenue coming from one supplier. It's not optimal, for the suppliers to be standing and falling on a supplier to that extent, So, like you're saying, there is room for new players to emerge.
Yeah, and I'm a firm believer that just developing slot games for the developing slot games is not the answer in these days anymore. That you have to stand out. Yeah, you have to satisfy a need. There is always room for other slot providers to do very well. We looked at Yggdrasil's Play and Goes. They have some great concepts coming out, but if there is 15-20 games a week, it's fighting for the same players for the same slots, and it's a strong fight.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, it'll be super interesting to follow this, Ragnar. And I have one final question for you today. Okay, get ready. So, as an old judo player, I saw here as well. I went to my research. You were third in the Estonian national championships there some time ago. What was your favorite judo trip?
Uchimata is
classic.
That was I was a left-handed wrestler, and left-handed wrestler with an Uchimata. It was. It has taken me out of a few tricky situations in my life.
So that's where we know when the next tricky situation come here with OneTouch and whatever, you need that Uchimata mindset basically. Yeah. It's good to have.
One big throw if you've been struggling for most of the match against a stronger opposition, and then all that can save you is one big throw. And Uchimata is. I'm not sure what hit or bust.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you so much today. It's been a pleasure to have you here, and safe travels back to Estonia, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome.